Okay, today is
November
something or other, about the 15th, November the 15th, we'll say, of 2024. I'm David Garratt, and I'm just about to interview somebody. Now, my guest, what is your full name?
My name is Sally Ann Garratt.
And what was your maiden name?
Sally Ann Lear, L-E-E-R.
Sally Ann, were you named after somebody?
I don't believe so. I don't recall that I was. Possibly.
Do you have a nickname or other names people call you?
Yes,
currently?
Sal.
Sal.
S-A-L, Sal.
And when you were a child, at school, did you have any nicknames other than Sal?
I think it was probably just Sal.
Sal. Mm-hmm. What is your date of birth, if you
July
remember?
16th, 1945.
Okay. And where were you born?
L.A. County Hospital, Los Angeles County Hospital.
Los Angeles County Hospital. Were both of your parents involved in your birth?
I don't believe so. I don't recall that they ever told me that they were there at the birth. My mother was, of course.
Yes.
Right.
Were your grandparents, did they come and visit your mum in hospital or anything?
I don't know that.
Have you heard any of those kind of things?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No.
What was your first memory? Do you have a memory from your toddler years? Or
Yes, I was. Excuse me. I was the youngest of three, and my brother was 5 years older than me. My second brother was 14 months older, and I was then born.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can fill that in just a bit. My mother was struggling at the thought of having a third child so close to having had my brother, which was a difficult birth. And so she thought that what she could do is try to lean against a wash machine that was moving to dislodge the fetus, which was me.
Wow. When you say dislodge the fetus?
Well, she was trying to abort me.
Oh, okay.
She wanted to. Then it was my grandmother that stepped in and said, Charlotte, this could be the little girl that you wanted.
Right.
So that, to me, was a pre-birth thing because I must have felt those feelings, which I think gave me a slant towards having disagreements with my mother so much.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Just back to the question.
Yes.
What is your first memory?
Let's see, I would have been, 2, 3 maybe. I remember riding, I probably was 2.5, riding a little trike. Not a bicycle, not a tricycle, but a trike.
Yeah.
That you push with your own feet.
Oh, yes.
I do remember that.
Was that like a Christmas present or a birthday
I don't
present?
think so. I think it was outside on the lawn. I have a photo of that, and I do remember that.
Do you remember any favourite books from your very early years, say 3 to 6?
It was the golden books. I loved them. And about, yes, they were the popular thing at that time.
Any particular books stand out? Can you
Over the
remember any
Hill,
of the
yes,
titles?
I do. Let's see. The cow jumped over the... No. I won't try to remember. I'm sorry.
That's like a nursery rhyme
Rhyme books.
Yep.
I love them.
Yeah, I think I remember that one. Did you have any favourite soft toys in your bedroom as a very young child? Do you remember any of that kind of thing? Or a
I was
doll?
allergic to cats, so I wasn't allowed to have any cats.
Right.
But yes, I played with dolls. I was one of those little girls that loved playing with her dolls.
Did you have any? Do you remember any of your dolls specifically, or have
Yes,
any
I
names?
do remember the baby dolls that I loved.
Yeah. Did you give them names or anything?
I don't know.
No.
I don't. Gosh, I don't know.
Can't remember?
No.
So you, when you were born, you lived. Your both parents were at home, and
Yes,
you had
they
two
were
brothers.
at that stage. Yes.
And where was your house? Do you remember?
Oh,
you remember the
gosh, let me
address,
just think
or
of the house.
or what about the town? What was the
Well, we lived in California.
yeah?
And
What part of California?
we lived near Arcadia, California, Pasadena, California.
Pasadena.
That area.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you remember the suburb, or not specifically?
No. Monrovia, Long Avenue, which is where we lived as well.
Yeah.
In that California district,
Yeah.
Lower California.
So obviously your mum was a full-time homemaker. Had she had any jobs prior to having children?
She was working alongside my dad as a contractor for building houses, which he was doing, and so she learnt how to do that.
Yes. Oh, cool. And so your dad, obviously, he was a developer, or
Correct. He was a builder.
a builder.
And then did different lots.
So did you move
houses.
around, or were you fairly stable
No,
in terms
we
of
didn't
house?
move around.
Right.
No.
So you were in that particular location for how long?
Oh gosh, let me just think. Well, we lived in that area right through near my grandparents.
Yeah.
So
Right. Your grandparents were nearby. Yeah.
well, they were an hour and a half away, which we went and visited often. Okay, I
Yeah.
can't, darling, I can't remember
That's
that.
all right. No worries. Did you have any? I'm just thinking, kind of primary school age. So age
Yes, primary.
5
Yes,
to
I
10,
loved
11,
it.
12.
I loved it. I loved primary school.
Do you have? Is there any memories that stick out? Was there any games that you liked to play with your friends?
Yes, we played what is called, and they played a different name here, where you have a ball, you've got four corners.
Yeah.
Each one plays, and four people in a
Yeah.
corner getting the ball to each other. I
Yeah.
loved it. Loved playing that.
Did you-
And hopscotch.
Hopscotch.
Very, very popular.
Any
I
jump
loved it.
rope type things?
Jumping rope, yes, thank you for that. Yep. Did all
Was
that.
there any at that younger age? Did you play any sports? Was there any sports outside of normal school activities that you played?
Well, I know that we went swimming a lot, but I don't recall
Any team
at that
sports?
age. At that age, it was when I got older and teenager.
Right.
I did.
And in terms of hobbies, did you do music?
I learnt
that
I
age?
learnt a little bit of the piano at that age.
Yeah,
Moving into primary school.
yeah. No other instruments, just the piano you learnt?
Oh gosh, my mother wanted me to do ballet,
Yeah.
and then when I tried ballet, she laughed so hard I never went back.
Oh. Did you collect anything? Was there anything at that age as a young child that you liked? Be it shells or baseball cards or any collections?
Yes,
of
I
anything?
did do a collection, and it was very popular in the younger age. It was cards that had faces on them, and I don't remember the name of what it was called, but we used to swap them,
Yeah. swap
like
cards.
kids do nowadays.
Yeah. Did you have a best friend in your primary school years, 5 to 10, 11, 12? Do you remember anybody?
I do remember a best friend, but that was more into 12, 13. Her
Yeah.
name was Kathy Love.
Uh-huh. Oh, cool.
So I remember
So
she
that was at what we call college high school.
College high school,
Yeah.
yes. I don't remember before that, though.
Yeah. Okay. Obviously, you didn't have cats. Did you have any pets?
Well, the thing is, we did have a cat, and we made a little area for it in the back lawn. And it had little cubby holes and things for the cat, but then it had kittens. And it's not until then that we had this cat I found that I was actually quite allergic to the pet duff.
Do you remember the name of the cat?
Daffodil.
Daffodil. That's an interesting name for a cat.
Well, it was a beautiful cat.
Right. Yellow? No.
No, it wasn't yellow. It was multicoloured. So we named it Daffodil. I had kittens. And then my mother didn't know what to do with all these kittens. So I won't tell you what she did. So
Do you have any memories of in the household, do you
Yes.
remember your mum doing washing? Do you remember your
Yes, I
mum doing
do.
baking? Was she a baker or cook or not really?
Not so much, but I do remember she just was a standard housewife.
Yeah.
And then, of course, she was trying to do work as well. So there was that situation where she was working with my dad in the contracting business.
At that age, between 5 and 10, 11, 12,
Yes.
did it feel like it was a happy family home?
No, there was a lot of stress in the family home.
Because of work stress, was it? Or-
No, I think it was relationship with my mother and my dad.
Oh, okay.
But I do remember Gary when he was 10.
Yeah.
I was 5, and my dad and my mother had separated.
Oh, already at that stage?
Yes, and my dad would come to visit,
Yeah.
and he would always have money in his wallet. We kids thought
Yeah.
it was great.
Yeah.
And he would take us to dinner and always give us a gift
Yeah.
or money from his wallet.
So, okay, well, let's just step back a little bit.
Yes?
What age were you when your parents separated?
Well, you see, I was 4.
You were 4 years old, and that. Do you remember that time?
I remember it as traumatic because I couldn't work out why he didn't come home at night.
Right. So
And
there was a. You must have
glitch.
heard muffled arguments or whatever. There must have been tension in the house.
I did, a lot of tension in the house.
And so he eventually moved out of the house at that point.
He did. I must have been 4.
Do you think there had? How long had they been married? Oh, obviously your brother.
Right, 10 years.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this had started before you were born. This.
I'm thinking so.
Yeah. This rift between them.
Yes.
So he moved out, and what did he move into a hotel or?
No, I won't say what he did.
Okay. So from 5 years old-ish,
Yes.
you were brought up, so your early school
mother.
years just with your mum
Correct.
and your 2 brothers with you. So
Correct.
your dad would come and visit once in a while?
Once in a while when he was in the area.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Did you, as a child, was there a place that your family would go holiday?
Yes, we would go to Laguna Beach, which is where my grandmother and grandfather lived
At that time?
at that time.
Right.
And we loved it there, and the beach was a very pretty place to go.
Yeah.
Very pretty.
Okay. And being American, lots of lights and sparkles at Christmas time?
Oh, yes, Christmas was amazing, and all that, the time that went into putting the tree up and all the decorations, and it started in October.
You were living in a place that didn't have snow in winter. Do
Correct.
you remember ever having a snowy Christmas?
Never,
Never had a snowy Christmas?
no.
Okay. Let's jump forward a smidge and duck into your teenage years. So,
Oh, okay.
well, is there anything else from those earlier years you want to...
No, because
mention?
you see, it was a different primary school age. So because I didn't have my father around, it was up to my mother to do everything plus work. So.
Yeah. Was this something that was out of the ordinary for kids in your
Pretty
age
much
group?
in that time it was.
Right. So
Nowadays,
you felt a
it's-
little bit of stigma? Were you embarrassed when you started to understand what had gone on with your parents?
I don't recall that I was, but I probably was.
Yeah. So you kind of generally didn't talk about it?
No.
Right. Okay, so teenage years, what high school did you go to?
I went to Arcadia High School.
Yep.
And I loved it. In that first year, I was 13.
Yeah.
And I got to overcome the feelings of I guess loss, you would call it. I would make sure that I said hello to everybody going down the hall. There were 1,200 students.
Wow.
And that year, I won Friendliest Girl of the Year. And it was only my first year at college.
Wow.
So that was awarded to me at the end of that year. and it's purely because I reached out.
Yeah.
And and I also took what's the name of it where you I took a very good subject in speech. I took speech in school.
Yes.
Which debating was part of it, so I loved all that.
Right. You obviously had your friend Kathy.
I did, Kathy Love.
Were there any other friends that you developed in that 13?
There were, but I don't
15-year-old?
remember their. Oh yes, I do remember all that, but I don't remember their names.
Yeah.
I had about 3 or 4 good friends, which I loved.
In high school, did you play any sports? Did you join any teams?
I loved volleyball.
Right.
And we did the 2-team volleyball, which I loved.
Yeah.
And also the bigger teams in volleyball.
Did you continue on with music? So were you playing the piano?
I was taking the piano at that time.
Right. So that was was that in school or was it outside of school? Okay.
Private lessons.
Did your brothers play the piano as well? Were they?
No, they didn't.
Okay.
No.
Do you remember any of the subjects that you liked or disliked?
I disliked algebra. I
Maths,
just couldn't get a handle on it.
Yeah.
I loved art. I loved going to the art room and doing the different things that were there to do.
Yeah.
Instructions like making a chipped glass mirror, which I loved. I don't know what happened to that, but anyway, it was great. Art. I don't think phys ed was so popular, but definitely the volleyball.
Mm-hmm. Did your school have a uniform? Did the high school have a uniform? It wasn't a uniform school.
No. It was boys and girls.
Oh, right, co-ed. So through towards the middle of your high school year, there was a big change in your life.
Yes.
And so what age were you when your mum started hinting about this place on the other side of the world?
I was age 16.
Right.
And my mother had met some wonderful New Zealand folk who had introduced her to a lovely New Zealand man. And so my mother was pretty keen to get to New Zealand.
Right. So it would have been a big thing to up from your life.
It was difficult because I was coming into my senior year of high school.
Yeah.
And I was going to be a cheerleader.
Yeah.
And so...
Did you fly or was it a boat?
No, we flew.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So that's a big thing. How did your mum afford to be able to do that?
I don't know now. We took my grandmother and we stopped in Hawaii for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And then we sent her back.
Yeah.
And we went on to New Zealand.
Do you think your grandparents helped pay for that?
Very possibly, because how else?
Yeah.
She wouldn't have had a lot of money. No.
Just on your grandparents, so this is your mum's parents?
Correct, Vesta.
Do you remember much about your grandpa and grandma on that side of the family?
Yes, I do.
This is the Hall side of the family.
This is the Hall side. And I was close to them because, of course, they were looking after me on some times.
Right.
I would go and stay with them when there were difficulties.
On holidays and things.
Correct.
Yeah.
And my grandmother was an artist, a painter. She had her own art cabana.
Yeah,
and she did tiles and she did oils.
Yeah.
And she never had to work because my grandfather was 13 years older and he was an accountant. So he always looked after her.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you remember much about your grandparents on the Leah side? Your dad's parents?
I didn't know my dad's dad. I never met his mother, Eula. She was Welsh, and she died at a very early age by septicemia because she had gone for a backstreet abortion because she was expecting a child that wasn't my grandfather's.
Oh, okay. Right.
Maybe you shouldn't put that in.
No, that's fine. That's fine. It's family history. Mm-hmm. Back to you.
Yes.
So you came to New Zealand, and
yes.
Was there any? So your mum came obviously with the intention of getting to know this New
Correct.
Zealander
Correct.
better,
Correct.
who she'd never actually met face to face?
No, she'd met him.
Oh, she had met
Yeah,
him.
she'd met him
so
in New
they'd
York.
come to the States, right? Okay. So anyway, you came over here, and did your two brothers come with you?
Yes, they did. And at that stage, my brother, the eldest brother, Gary, was called into service.
Yeah.
And so he had to go back to the States and then go to Vietnam at that time, the Vietnam War.
Okay, so it was just you and your brother Bill.
Yeah, and my brother Bill did his building training.
Yeah.
And became a qualified builder.
Right. And Bill is how many years older than you?
He's not. He's a year and
Oh.
2 months.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I can see that link. And you went to high school over here?
I did. I went to Wellington East Girls College.
Yes.
And I did a year and a half. And it was very difficult educationally wide because I had to get used to the New Zealand stream.
Yeah.
Which
completely different style of education.
Very different and
Yeah.
high expectations. And I think I only passed with C's, really.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't get a university entrance, no.
Right. So did you continue at school 17? Did you finish the whole school?
I finished and then I trained, yes.
Yeah.
And then I trained the following year as a kindergarten teacher.
Right, you went straight into kindergarten
I
teacher.
did.
And where did your mother and your brother and you live while you went to school?
We were living in Haitaito.
Right, so you were flatting?
Yes, we were.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in the school, did you have friends there? Did you make friends?
I made friends, but because I was very American, I was noticed a lot, and I'd be watched as I walked down the hallway.
Oh, right.
I'd smile to people, but really I was a slightly outsider because of having and of course Americans in New Zealand at that time was really big news.
Right.
And so I was known in that school. Yeah.
I guess the only contact New Zealanders had with American were the Yankee Army guys who had come here.
Yes, I suppose so, yes.
And done their business over here.
Yes.
Yeah, right. A little bit of a random offside question. Did you ever try smoking? When you're a teenager?
Oh, now this is interesting. I didn't, but my mother had found what is called a type of herbal cigarette.
Like a clove cigarette? Or?
Yes, and she wanted me to try it and to see if it would help with the asthma.
Smoking to help with asthma.
It was a herbal thing to help the chest. Anyway, I do remember going out the front door and doing pushing my herbal cigarette and calling out, "Mabel, I'm smoking."
Good.
So that was very fun.
Good.
I can remember her saying, "Sally, don't say that. Get back into the house."
Now,
anyway.
Now, somewhere along the line here, you met Joy Garratt.
No.
Oh.
Now, we started going to the this is when we were in New Zealand, we started going to the Presbyterian Church at St. John's.
Oh, okay. We'll step back a little bit then. So, your family or your mum, was she a regular church goer?
She was. She was.
So
it was important to her that we were going to church.
Okay, so you tried to find something in New Zealand. So the Presbyterian Church
was that more like what we were used to.
Was that in Willis Street? Is it St. John's? Willis Street. You've been Presbyterian?
There. You've been there.
Right. So that was the church you guys decided to go along to.
And that's where we met the Garratt family.
Oh, okay. So they were already there.
Correct.
Right. And you were about what age at this point?
18.
Okay. So, because Joy had gone to Wellington East as well.
Correct. And
was she older or younger than you?
Same age. She's a little bit younger.
Did you meet her? Did you come across her?
Yes, I did. And
so it was a familiar face when you went to the Presbyterian.
Yes, and the history there is that because her brother was Ian, who I eventually married, I was getting to know her, but also getting to know the Garratt family. And so this what started with Ian and me, little funny notes that we would send to each other. I don't know, do we still have that?
I don't know.
Somewhere. I think you found it one time.
Oh.
Funny little notes that we would write. And then that carried on we didn't go out. We weren't going out then. We didn't go out for, I don't know, another year or so because he was dating someone else.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, okay, so there's a little bit of a spark of interest.
Yes, there was a spark of interest.
And he was in the youth group. Was he leading the youth group?
He was leading Boys Brigade.
Okay, and was he older than you?
4 years older.
4 years older, okay. Prior to that, had you had any people that you had a little bit of an interest in your school years? Was there anybody?
I think there were a couple when I was in the college. When,
in New Zealand or back in America?
In New Zealand,
okay.
There were a couple, but no.
Anybody back in America?
There was one that I thought was great.
Yeah.
He was gorgeous, but that was just when we were moving to New Zealand.
Yeah, and you were still quite young then
I
as well.
was, but I did go to the high school ball with him.
Oh, cool. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Was
was it a big dress-up occasion? American high school balls at that time?
Oh, yes, and flowers.
Yeah, oh, yes.
Yeah.
Corsages.
Oh,
that's good.
It was
Glad
lovely.
you got to go to a ball because balls weren't really a thing here in New Zealand in that same way.
It certainly was, yeah.
Yeah. So did you have contact with your dad when you moved to New Zealand?
Obviously, very rarely. They would come and visit.
Yeah.
When our children were starting to grow, and they would visit.
When you say they, so
Dorothy, his wife.
Oh, so your dad got remarried. So obviously the divorce was finalised. Your dad got remarried.
Yes.
Did they have any kids? Were they?
They had two.
Right.
Which are my step-brother and stepsister.
Right. Was that straight away or?
No, I don't think it was. No.
Right.
But our children, you David, and the others, were just young, and they would come and visit. Yeah. Stay down by the botanical gardens.
Yes, at the Shirella.
Yeah.
No, it's not there anymore.
Yeah, and so that's how that relationship carried on.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It was nice.
Okay. So your relationship with Ian, so you obviously had a little bit of an interest in him.
Yes.
Did he reciprocate that? Obviously.
I probably pushed it a bit more because I was the American girl.
Yeah.
And he was a shy New Zealander.
Yeah.
So as it progressed, we actually started to go out. We got engaged 18 months before we were married.
Yes.
So it was a long courtship.
How long did you go out for?
4 years.
4 years. So from the age of, what, 18 or 19?
I was 22 when I married him.
Right. Mm-hmm. 18, 22 when you were married. Right.
He was 26.
He was 26.
And he'd done his army training then too.
Where did you go on dates? Did you have any specific
we'd go to movies.
Yeah.
We'd go to movies. And we'd often go with his parents with a cup of tea, thermos and the cup of tea.
Yeah.
Go for walks, go to the park.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing.
Right. And okay, so he was quite a sporty person.
Very
you remember
sporty.
him as a sporty person?
I would go watch him play cricket, which I didn't understand at all. But I would go and enjoyed that. Yeah.
Did you get a sense when you were dating him, was there a specific time you thought he's the one for me? Or was it hard because he was your first boyfriend? You didn't have that frame of reference in terms of...
As we went out and dated, excuse me, camera, you'll take that out in any case.
Or not.
We dated fun way for quite a while.
Yeah.
And actually did a lot of stuff through the Presbyterian Church and the youth group.
Yeah. Cool.
Good.
And you eventually got married 4 years later.
We did.
And you didn't have a formal proposal.
No, but my mother did agree that he could marry me.
Right. And were his parents happy with the arrangement?
Very
because
much
it would have
so.
been from a conservative New Zealand perspective, slightly higher risk
Well, they were
match for their son.
Yeah, they were very happy about it because they knew that if this was a marriage, that I would be good for him, and
Right.
because he was quiet and reserved,
Yes.
and that helped to bring him out of his shell. So that was
interesting.
I remember them saying that. Very glad about it.
Where did you get married?
St. John's Presbyterian Church.
So the church
in
where you'd
Street.
met, right?
Yes.
Do you remember the date of your wedding?
Yes, March 9th, 19...
Would it be 67
yes,
or 68 maybe?
67.
67. And was it a big wedding?
Yes, we had 120 people.
Yep.
And we had a lovely meal with crayfish mornay. And it was at a hotel motel. It's not there now, on not Willis Street, but Manor Street.
Yeah.
I can still see it there. Yeah.
And did you have many people in the bridal party, bridesmaids?
Yes, I had Joy, Cess Archer, and Val Goldfinch.
And these were people that you had met through
And
the
I
church?
knew them. I knew them. No, they were friends outside of the church.
Had you
except
met
Joy.
them at? Had you met them? How had you met?
Whoa, gosh. That's another story. Cess Archer was part of our Christian friendships.
Yeah.
Val I had met because she come to live with my mother and me.
Yeah.
And then she moved on and went north. So that's how I knew her.
Huh. And where did you go for a honeymoon? Did you have a honeymoon
We went
at
to
all?
Taupo.
Right.
Taupo, New Zealand for a week.
Yeah.
And we rented a place in Acacia Bay.
Oh, lovely. Nice. Do you remember it being nice weather?
It was lovely, and there was a little boat that we could take out and go fishing. We tried.
Yeah.
And no, that was a lot of fun. And Dorothy Westerman gave us a special deal because we were newly married, and so it wasn't as expensive as we thought it was going to be.
So you, where did you live when you got married?
We had bought a house on Cecil Road, and we had done that before we married, and my mother and I moved in, and my mother paid rent until we married.
And did she stay around long after you got married?
She was there. She went to the States about, it was within months.
Yeah.
She went back to the States.
So this would have been about 6 years after you'd come to New Zealand. So you're well settled here.
Yes, and she went back and met John Kinberg through church and ended up marrying him.
Right. And did they have any children together?
No, he already had 2 children.
Right. Did you feel a sense of loss with your mum going home and your brother not being around? You were just...
No, I didn't. I was happy. I was friends. I had the Garratt family. I had Joy. I had lots to do.
Yeah.
No, it was a happy time.
Did you have holidays with the family members at that point? Like, were they always big family holidays with the Garratts, or was it
weren't
more...
big. It was smaller families.
Yeah.
But if we knew they were going to be around, we would try to have holidays at that time to be with them.
Yeah. So you worked as a kindergarten teacher when you were first married?
Until, yes, when I was, I was there before we married because we had a huge, big kitchen tea at the kindy.
Yeah.
And then married, and then a year and a half, you came along.
What kindy was that?
This was Northland Kindy.
So you worked at Northland Kindy?
I did, and I would come home, be that way, and go up the steps to the house.
Right, so when you had your first child,
which was
David,
you, David.
Yes, at that point you stopped working?
I did.
Or at least formally stopped working?
Yeah, I didn't go back to volunteer, help, what's the word? I didn't start doing any work until Sarah was 4.
Yeah, right, okay. So you ended up having 4 children.
I did.
With a reasonable space between each of them.
Yes, there was.
And you lived in this house,
Cecil Road,
which originally was a 3-bedroom house.
170 Cecil Road.
And you had to add on to the house.
We
you stayed
did.
there
We
and
fixed
added
up
on
the
rather
kitchen,
than moving.
And we fixed the downstairs into another rumpus area in which eventually our teenage boys lived.
Yeah. Was there any specific number of kids that you had wanted? Why
well, of
4?
course, I always thought that we'd have 3
Right.
because of coming from a 3-child family.
Yes.
And then we had a lovely little gift of Ruth.
Yes.
So she was the 4th child.
Right. Do you remember any reasoning behind the names that were chosen for your children?
Yes.
Did you have input into that, or was it?
Yes, I did. We decided on the names. We had David Ian Garratt, which is my firstborn. Then we had John, which is both David and John's names are historic names from the family past and also a great meaning. And then we had John. We put Ian's name into John's name. We put David Ian Garratt.
John Frank.
John Frank, his brother's name. And we had Sarah Lynn.
Yes.
Sarah means Sally and Lynn means cascading waterfall, which she is. And then we had Ruth, which means friend.
And Ann being your middle name.
Correct.
No names from your mum or your dad's side?
No.
No, so there was no William the 4th?
No.
No. Do you remember, was there anything that you remember about each of your children? So start with David. What do you remember of him when he was younger? So toddler through to 10 years old, say.
Yes, David.
Was he a loud child? Was
No,
he
wasn't
a
loud, but he was-
strong-willed child?
No, he wasn't that. He was a very easy child to do things with. And he was slightly liked doing funny things. I remember that about David.
Right. He was the first
First
child in that generation, so he had the attention of the grandparents and the aunties.
Did. Oh, the grandparents
auntie.
adored David when he was a little tiny baby. They'd come over regularly to see him have a bath and to splash. So that was a very special time. And then John came along 2 years later, which was a lovely gap for the 2 boys.
So that's an interesting dynamic. 2 boys under 5 or under 4.
Yeah, well, they were boys, and they played rough housing and funny things and riding bikes and scooters down the road and back and etc.
And then you had Sarah.
Had Sarah.
So there was a little bit of a gap between John and Sarah.
3 years, I think.
Yeah.
And Sarah.
So that would have been interesting to have a girl come into the family, and you had the chance
yes.
to buy girly things for her.
It was lovely. No, it was Sarah was a lovely baby, and then we had Ruth. Was she 2 years later again?
Yeah.
She was slept well, ate well, was a lovely baby, and I remember my son David holding her a lot and helping me with her.
Did you feel like it was scary to be a parent, or was it something you just embraced?
I was never afraid of that because I had a grandmother and my mother who were very good at parenting, so I had no hiccups about that.
Do you feel like you were a strict or a lenient parent? Your parenting style, were you wanting to keep everybody in line?
No, I probably was middle of the road.
Is there anything that you would change looking back in hindsight in the way you raised your children?
I mean, one can always feel that you could do things better because it's the first time round. But in saying that, no, I haven't had regrets.
Okay, well, we'll jump into a slightly different field. You obviously will talk about spirituality. So you went to church with your mum.
I did, yes.
Back in America.
Yes.
Were you part of a youth group back then?
Yes, I was. And at age 16, I remember going to a a big event that was, I think, must have been an evangelical event.
Is this in New Zealand?
No, this was in the States
Okay.
before I came.
Yeah.
And I do remember putting my hand up
Yeah.
when they did an altar call
Yeah.
and being counseled. Now,
Right.
that was my beginning of, because I didn't know very
Anything.
much about a personal relationship with Jesus.
So do you think at that point it was just an interest to know more personally, or do you recognise that as being the time you started a personal relationship?
I think that was the time when I started seeking,
Right.
because I do remember then coming to New Zealand and getting involved in the youth group at St. John's,
Yeah.
and also starting a personal Bible reading,
Right.
which, of course, helped me to understand what Christianity was all about and the relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
I remember that very clearly.
Yeah. So you came to New Zealand, and
Yes.
do you remember any specific scenario or situation where you prayed a prayer
Yes, I do.
or anything, or did it just
No,
happen?
very clear, because we were living in Karori, and I remember just in my heart I knew I had to make a decision. So I got down on my knees before my bed and accepted Christ as my Saviour.
Was there anybody else there with you?
No, it was
right,
by
so it was
myself.
just a personal thing.
It was it's still very clear.
Do you feel like there was a change or anything?
The change came, and of course, as you live life, you're changing all the time and becoming more understanding of your relationship with Jesus. Yes.
Do you feel like you had a good connection there with Jesus, or do you think that was something that had to grow and develop?
Both of those. Personal relationship came, and then a growth time came. And of course I was involved with the youth group, which was very dynamic, very Bible based, and so I had a lot of education that way. Yeah, so that was good.
Do you remember, so that's asking what we call asking the Lord into your heart.
Right.
Initiating a more personal relationship
Correct.
with God. Were there any other times that marked you spiritually in the following years?
Yes, I remember going to a huge conference in Palmerston North, and it was with all these wonderful leaders that had come to take part and do preaching. And I remember that time when I had prayer for the infilling of the Holy Spirit, and that was before we were married. Yeah. So that was a very dynamic time.
With that specific situation, do you remember, was there any tangible feelings,
Right,
or was
yes.
it just a belief inside you?
No, I had a tangible experience.
How would you describe that?
An oncoming of love and joy, and it was very real, very real. I didn't have to believe it was happening, it was happening.
Right. At that point, did you speak in tongues, or did you any of that kind of stuff?
Yes, at that time I started learning how to use that gift and speak in tongues.
So you did in that moment.
Yes.
Do you sense that at that time you were given any other giftings or ministries, even if they're latent still?
I suspect so.
Any ideas what they were?
Yes, discernment of spirits and gifts of knowledge and wisdom.
Right. What do you do each day to practice or affirm your beliefs?
We have me and my husband, Ian, we have a daily devotional time together. We read the scriptures, and then we take time praying over the scriptures and then praying for other people.
Do you feel like your view of God and religion has changed over time, or is it fairly static?
It's deepened.
Is there anything that has fundamentally shifted your view in the years and growing and experience?
No, nothing has shifted. It's just my relationship with the Lord has grown deeper, and in our prayer times together is very real, and we know we're talking to the Lord. Yeah.
You've kind of touched on it. The question is, what was the most stressful event experience in your life?
Yes.
Would that have been your dad separating from your mum?
I do remember that, going to the mailbox and he didn't come home. And so that was a shock way back then when I was 4.
Do you feel like moving to New Zealand was stressful for you personally?
Oh, no, I was excited.
Right, so it was a bit of
an adventure.
Yeah.
What we were going to find, it was exciting.
Yeah.
On a plane.
Yeah.
Going to Hawaii. Yes, no, it was good.
Okay. What is something you used to do that you now really do? That's a completely different question.
I used to do. And
That you now really do. Is there anything that you used to do and now really do?
Very difficult. Can you give me an inference?
I don't know. Well, an example might be sewing.
Oh,
You used to
art.
do a lot of sewing, art.
A lot of sewing.
You do more art now. That's
Yes,
something.
that's correct.
How old are you now? Currently?
79.
79.
So I've done art. I explored the art field for the last 15, 20 years, which I've loved.
When your children grew up, you got a you started to help
The kindergarten.
the kindergarten.
I did.
And after that, you had a number of jobs that you did.
I did. I
Mainly-
trained to do Colour Me Beautiful.
Yes. So you did that for how many years?
Oh gosh, maybe 2 or 3 years. Probably
Yeah.
at the
So
very
you had
most.
people into your house.
I
And you,
did. I came into the home. I set
Yeah.
everything up,
Yeah.
and we did what we call drapings, and I got paid for that.
So you earned some pocket money that way to
Yes,
help the
I
family.
did. It did. It did.
And then through financial events, your husband moved from wholesale and you guys bought a retail shop
Correct. That is right.
in Johnsonville.
That's right.
So at that point you became more active
I was the sole.
in terms of
I was the sole
helping run that
retailist.
business.
Yes.
And effectively had a full-time job.
Yes, it was full-time.
Your kids were teenagers.
Teenagers, and teenagers would come and help me sometimes after school.
So it really was a family business.
Yes, it was.
To all intensive purposes. And David worked with you through university.
Yes.
John did as well
Correct.
through university. The girls,
right.
not so much.
No.
Sarah worked in the local mall
That's right.
pharmacy, and Ruth, when she was old enough, worked in the local travel agency.
That's right. That's right.
All in the suburb of Johnsonville in
Correct.
North Wellington.
That's right.
So that shop was a good part of your daily life
Very much so.
For quite a number of years.
Yeah, until such time when we could see that the trend was changing and that people weren't sewing so much. They weren't sewing so much at school. And so we knew it was time to get out, and we were offered a job, which we took.
So
in
where was that
Wainaro.
job? Wainaro. So you went up there,
Yes.
left Wellington.
Yes.
By this stage, David was married, John was married, Sarah,
Was she working?
she was in Tauranga.
She was in Tauranga, and Ruth was on her own in the house, and she got
Yeah.
flatmates. And
Yeah. And you spent how many years in Wainaro? Was it a couple of years?
oh, it was only maybe a year.
A year. And then you moved
Went
to Taupo.
to Taupo to stay in the family home until we could decide what to do.
Yeah.
So in the end, we stayed there, lived there for a few years, and Ian got work. I got work at the prawn farm.
Yep. And the honey
At
hive.
Honey Hive, and then Ian was doing shuttle work,
Yeah.
tourism.
And then eventually you built a house.
We built a house in Taupo,
The other house was sold.
sold, and used that finances to build this house,
Yep.
not far away from there, and a new modern home, which was great. We
Which
loved
you
it.
lived in for
Oh, 12 years.
12
13, 14
years.
Yeah.
Before
Came back to
eventually
Wellington.
coming back to Wellington
Correct.
and settling down in Camborne,
That's right.
which you're living in now and we're filming from right
Okay.
now. Okay, here's a different question. Can you think of words that would best describe how you want to be remembered by your family? Is there any words that stand out to you?
Yes, by your family.
Or by remembered by people that you know?
That I loved my family, each and every one. There is no difference between one to the other. That would be the number
Hear
one.
that, Sarah?
Yes, I get teased a lot about the kids think that they are the only one, the special one, the best one. But that's all in jest because I don't single out any of my family, and I have the same love for friends. I love them. So yes.
Is there anything you regret?
Over my life.
It's a big question.
My regrets.
If there's nothing that jumps out at you,
No,
that's
there
fine.
isn't. No, there isn't.
What do you think the world in 2024 needs more of right now?
Peace. Oh gosh, we need peace in this world. But we need the clearing up of these wars, the struggle of individuals. I'm going to sneeze.
You're allowed to sneeze.
You can take that out.
You got a famous sneeze.
I do.
So peace.
Yes, I don't know what else I want to say there. Yes, I'd have to think about that one.
Okay, here's a quick fire. What is your favourite animal?
We had a lovely dog called Oscar, and he was a black and white spaniel. Now I'm only looking back because we didn't have animals since
If
then.
you could choose any animal, not just a pet, but any animal, is there any animal you have an affinity with?
Affinity with? Ooh.
I like dolphins. I like whales.
Affinity with any animal.
So there's no animal that
I do
jumps out
love
at you.
whales, and I do love the dolphins. I love all that, yes.
Do you have a favourite author?
Oh, yes, I do. I love cowboy books. And what's the name of that?
Louis L'Amour?
Louis L'Amour cowboy books, my favourite author.
Do you have a favourite board game?
Yes, I do love Sequence, and I haven't played for a while, but I do love Monopoly.
What about card games? Do you have card games
We
that
did
you like?
play a lot. Yes, I love playing you know.
Yep.
With the grandchildren, that's a lot of fun. And with family when we sit down all together. And we played games called Hearts, well, we call them in the States called Hearts, but there's another name here, 500.
Do you have a favourite TV program? Is there any programs that you like?
At the moment, we're enjoying Would I Lie to You, which is very funny. No, but I wouldn't say at the moment.
Do you have a favourite movie? Is there one movie that would stand out?
Yes, The Proposal.
Interesting. What is your favourite colour?
Well,
Do you have a favourite colour?
It used to be red, but it's
Yeah.
not now. Changed.
Oh, what is your favourite colour now then?
Turquoise.
Turquoise. Interesting.
Colour of the sea.
Tropical sea maybe.
Yes, it is.
What is your favourite ice cream flavour?
Boysenberry.
So a fruit flavoured ice cream.
Yes.
Is there any ice cream that you would not get?
Rum and raisin.
You don't like that.
No.
What is your favourite flower?
I think it would be roses.
Do you have a favourite food?
Yes, I love Mexican food, and I love enchiladas and tacos.
Is there a favourite artist, painting artist that you like, that has inspired you?
John.
We'll move on to the next one.
Thank you.
Is there a favourite season of the year?
Yes, I love the summer season.
Summer, so you're a summer person. Is there a favourite singer?
My favourite singer. I got to think about that. Favourite singer.
Or what about a favourite song?
Look, I love Andre Rieu, and then also I love the soloists that he brings on, but I can't tell you their names.
Is there... would you have a message that you would like to share with your family? Is there anything in your mind that you would like to say to your family
Yes,
members?
this is important because looking over the past in my life, I've realized there's certain incidents, which we haven't covered all of that, that have caused me to grow in more substance. And in that substance, which means an overall depth of being, that I would encourage my family to invest very much so in their reading of the scriptures, but also the things that they go through, that they come through positive with joy and understanding the Lord has led them through, carried them through difficult times, which is developing this substance. And the substance is what we can give out to other people, particularly coming from faith in God.
Is there any advice or messages that you would want to give to your grandchildren or even great-grandchildren that don't exist yet?
Just read it again, one more time.
Is there any advice or message that you would want to pass to your grandchildren?
Aside from becoming a Christian or loving God and living that life of honor and integrity, I would want my grandchildren to make sure that they're being kind and loving and thankful for their parents. Because unless they are thankful, the parents never know how they've been doing with their kids. And it's very important for my grandchildren to be thankful for their heritage.
Thank you. Well, I think
Are we done?
we've come to the end of this chat.
Good.
We hope you guys have felt that's informative. You've learnt a little bit about Sally Ann Garratt. And so thank
And
you.
if there's anything you want to know personally, you have to come and talk to me because it won't be recorded.
Yeah, well, fair enough.